Hello and welcome to the Vanessa Eriksson Podcast. I'm Vanessa, your host, and I'm here to bring you meaningful conversations with leaders and influencers on data, AI, innovation, and leadership. My guest today operates at a level that very few people sustain over time. She holds multiple chair roles across organizations like Lindholmen Science Park and SIQ, Swedish Institute for Quality, and she is also the CEO of Temimed. But what stands out even more is her energy and the commitment she continues to bring. At a stage where many step back, she is actively shaping organizations, leadership, and how we think about the future. And honestly, I don't know about you, but to me that's deeply inspiring. Anna, what a pleasure to have you here.
Great to be here, thank you.
For those who don't know you, Anna, so how about we bring them up to speed with what you have been doing?
Yeah, well, if I go back, far back, I am an engineer from Chalmers. I have been working for Volvo, especially Volvo cars, for 20 years, and then I went into, as it felt maybe a totally different area, Science Discovery Center that was projected for Gothenburg, where the industry, the city and the academy wanted to do this place for children and young people to become interested in science and technology, Universium. Yeah, so I was the first CEO of that.
Wow.
And put it in place. Yeah, great. So much fun and so much interesting stuff and so meaningful. So after that, when I left, I went into starting up innovation and research center for traffic safety at Lindholmen Science Park in Gothenburg. And that was maybe expanding this idea of getting a lot of different partners together that have one common vision but a lot of different other agendas, different businesses, different whatever dreams. But they all together wanted to do this thing about traffic safety. So, and after that, about 10 years ago now, I went into more of a free space for myself, doing board work and other things like that. So today I would say I just try to get to work in the innovation ecosystem to make it more powerful for the future.
Anna, you sit across boards, academia, innovation ecosystems, and as a CEO. When you look across all these environments, where do you see the biggest gap today between ambition around data and AI and actual execution?
Well, I think that today there's a big awareness of AI. It's a lot of discussions in all boards, I think, of what does this mean for our business or for our organization. But I think the gap is that it's really how to really implement AI, not just being more effective in what you have always been doing, but really being able to transform your business in a way that really grasps what AI can do.
Many organizations today have more data than ever, but not necessarily better decisions. Right. So from what you are seeing on a board level, what typically gets in the way of turning data into that real action and ultimately better decisions?
I think that one thing is, of course, that you really have to understand what kind of data are relevant, because there are a lot of things you can collect, but what does it mean to you? And I think the other thing is that you have to understand for what purpose do we want to use data, because you can we really want to move from analyzing history to trying to forecast and predict where we're going. So you actually you have to understand what kind of data is relevant to us, and maybe there are a lot of collected data that is not relevant. But on the other hand, in some businesses you can use all data instead of just sample data. So that also
true.
So you have to think differently.
Yeah.
The purpose of your data.
But if we go back to AI, I mean, yes, data is what's feeding our AI today. But if we go back to AI, which is also now on the leadership agenda, from your perspective, when does it actually become a business capability rather than just a set of initiatives? Because I can imagine just now a lot of companies are just testing out a lot of initiatives about, what can AI do for us?
Well, that's a difficult question, because I think, as you say, what happens in organizations today is that a lot of smart people, anywhere in the company or in the organization, are testing with the different AI and thinking, how can this support what I'm doing? So you get this grassroots movement, not at all organized.
True.
And of course, so I think that's maybe one of the things from a leadership perspective. Is this okay? What kind of risks? What kind of security issues and all those kind of things? But I think, actually, the board has to put a lot of effort into, and the leadership group, of course, the management group, to understand what could AI mean to our business, and kind of make those two worlds meet. Individuals' desire to test it and the company's need. I think you have from a board agenda point of view, you have to move into a lot more reflection time on what AI means. It's not you have to have less of operational execution time and more of reflection and maybe scenario workshops and those kind of things.
Yeah, and I think you touched on something very important. From the ethics part, from the what are we doing, because while it's hard for these grassroots initiatives, it's kind of hard for the leadership or the board to keep track of. But I think the company somehow has to know what is happening, because again, it's the responsibility and the accountability who takes that at the end. Because if you run initiatives that ruin or affect the reputation of the company, that can't be good for the board.
No, absolutely. No, so I guess that would mean that AI also requires new roles in the company, or maybe new ways of communicating in the company. Because of course, as things are moving very fast and technologies are moving very fast, you need to pick up what's happening in the organization as well. So that requires maybe a new type of what you say in Swedish, the word lyhördhet, to be more observant to what actually is going on
in the company.
Company.
Yes, I absolutely agree to that. But if we then talk, because from that, then from these grassroots initiatives, either you see big transformation programs, or you see somebody like a chief AI officer, perhaps responsible for, collecting all the innovation that's happening in the company. The talk about transformation, whether it's digital, AI, or cultural, do you have an opinion of why these, so many of these efforts end up being incremental rather than true transformative?
To actually achieve true transformation, a lot of different parts of an organization, or of a society for that matter, if you take it on that level, and if you want to transform a transport system, for instance, in any case, whatever, there are so many different things that have to fit together, otherwise it will just lock each other. So you have have timing issues and you have communication issues that you have to orchestrate really. So it's I think it's very much about managing dynamics in an organization when it comes to when you have a lot of things happening in the whole system at the same time.
And I guess also, I'm just thinking that maybe sometimes it's also the risk and what risk the company wants to take.
Absolutely.
Where, because maybe not all employees understand when you have these grassroots initiatives, not all employees understand the implications of it, how it would affect other parts of the organization, where, if it's only from one part of the organization that you've got something up and running. So, yeah. But I think...
Absolutely. Of course, as you say, if you want to have... you have worked in a lot of big companies and to make things happen that goes across several parts or several divisions or whatever, you have to have the level above, understand and manage. So that's of course one of the things that affects will it happen or not. And another thing, of course, is about investments and capital, and you have ongoing investments in the company, and you have ongoing business models, and when they are affected, it's also a management issue. Can we change our calculations on what's good business or not, or whatever? It doesn't have to be business. It could be also be some other kind of organization.
And then maybe another part of it is the quality, where you think when you think about quality as a discipline built on consistency and measurement and long-term thinking, why is that mindset still so hard to apply when it comes to change?
Difficult question.
Your experience from SIQ?
Yeah, when it comes to as you say, I think it's some of the same mechanisms as we've just talked about, that quality has also back in time been very much about measuring and kind of evaluating, is this good or not? But now we're moving towards rather, how do you support an organization or an individual to do things right from the beginning? And when we have all those data, we really can have a much quicker feedback. Is this good or not? Yeah. Are we doing so the mindset concerning quality also changes. And I think I had a quite interesting discussion with a very young person just the other day on AI, because that's also a question for schools. The kids use AI to do better reports, and the teachers try to check the reports with some support of AI to be more effective. But what we discussed was actually that AI can do suggest improvements and can do very good writing, so to say. But when it comes to quality, it's very much of a judgment. And that judgment, what is good quality? What is grasping something? It's more of a human quality and a humanistic judgment to understand when things are not just right or wrong, or this figure or that figure. So I think that would mean for quality that we have to search maybe for more better understanding of what do we really want, how do we really define quality.
If we move to Lindholmen Science Park, you're at the intersection of industry, academia and public sector. What have you learned about why innovation works in some collaborations and completely stalls in others?
I think one of the key is just this trust. So to build a strong and successful collaborative project or program, it has to rely on trust. That you and trust, of course, is something you build over time. So you have to move carefully and build the trust and do things that hold, so to say. So I think that the project and program leaders you find in a company like Lindholmen Science Park, that's really their key competence. And it's very much, I think, about being clear on why do we do this together. So the sense making of being this partnership, whatever, and also to all the time be good at explaining. We do this because we want to achieve this. So it's very much about communicating the overall idea and how you progress towards that. And then, of course, it's also very much about trust when it comes to letting partners contribute as much as they feel themselves, not to push each other, and respect, of course, is a part of trust as well.
So when you say trust, is it between the collaborators, or is it towards the what are we building together?
I think
is it the innovation?
Both.
Yeah,
I think it's trust towards that. It makes sense that we have this collaboration. So because if you general on collaboration, whatever it's a small team or a team of teams.
But it's quite a big one you have there.
Absolutely, and I think that in all collaborations, it's important that you need to collaborate.
Yes.
That you agree that I cannot do this on myself, because if you can do it on yourself, it's quite
why invite everybody else?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So you need to do something together. It's a true need, and it's something that. It's good for you, either as an individual, you'll grow from being part of this, or if it's a collaboration between organizations, your company will prosper due to this. And the third thing I think has to be in place is you have to have something measurable, talking about data, that we achieve together, that you can really look back and say, or forward first, in 1 year we'll deliver this, and then when you look back, we did. Or we changed our minds, but in some way reassuring that we are actually doing this together. But then so I think that's kind of basic. But then you have to, difficult things when it's different partners and not just one company, is that you have to acknowledge that there is not one common top. In a company, everything meets somewhere, but in these kind of collaborations you have at Lindholmen, everyone has its own agenda as well. So you have to orchestrate what's our common need, and then respect and accept that in other matters we go our different ways.
Yeah,
but that's also about trust.
Do you see that sometimes that it breaks? Is it the leadership? Is it each one coming, as you said, with their own agendas? Is it something else?
Of course, collaborations break sometimes. Sometimes it could be that someone feels that, no, this is not for me anymore. Yeah. Or it could, of course, be that several feel that, no, we're not moving the way we accepted, or that you said we were. Yeah. So there are, of course, threats all the time, and I think two difficulties is that either if you that it's a timing issue again, that you have different time scale if you are a manufacturing company or a research organization or society. So one thing is to manage the different expectations and kind of explain, to try to to understand and make the different partners see the different restrictions.
Yeah, or challenges that the others have. Yes.
Yes, exactly. So therefore, to be leading this kind of collaborations, you actually often have to have different experiences yourself. So you kind of can understand. Yeah. Now they are running into this kind of problem. So I think that's,
I can see a lot of patience.
Yeah, it is. But it's a lot of reward, because if you really need each other to do something, then the reward is bigger than the pain.
Yeah, and I can imagine that they also want to help one another if somebody is stuck for whatever reason.
Yeah, but of course one thing that breaks, as you say, break a collaboration could be that the assumption that you needed each other wasn't correct. So that's also
another challenge, another piece of the puzzle to get everybody going. And then you are at the university in Borås.
Yeah.
Anna, you are so fantastic.
I just want to see the different perspectives on the innovation.
It's amazing. So from your role there at the university, how well are we preparing for a world shaped by AI, beyond just the technical skills?
Well, I think that if we take University of Borås, it's of course it's both. How do we use AI in the actual education and in the research as a tool, and then it's about the other part. Then what does the students of the future need to know? How do we integrate AI in that? And the third thing then is, of course, how can we do research that really integrates AI as a tool to achieve good innovation.
But when we look at the capabilities of organizations coming back, what are they missing today that they assume that they already have?
I think that we touched upon it before when we talked about that AI really requires you to also really think about the human qualities or the human capabilities that we haven't taken for granted. And I think that that companies have to be more aware of the systems that they create and how the different products they do or services, how it really, if you put AI into the equation, what is then your part of this? And I think that if you really want to be competitive, you also have to think what can we now add? What are we freeing up with using AI? And myself, I think it's a lot about the systems you really want to create, to maybe think more about value creation and giving, and also, of course, adding ethics, for instance, that you take for granted. So it's hard to understand what you don't know, what you don't know that you don't know, even harder.
And I guess that must be so important to understand, to know that when you are sitting on a board. And you, Anna, sit on multiple boards. How has the conversation around data and AI changed in the boardroom or the last couple of years? It must have.
Absolutely, and I think it's changed from more of understanding that this is a new technology coming, and really being something about what does this mean for our business in the future. I guess, I mean, AI also it brings question about investments, for instance. It brings question about new competencies that you need to recruit, to understand that you need. And I think that maybe there will be also more questions about who should we collaborate with.
And I think there the trust will be the big question.
Yeah, exactly.
Or the big factor.
Yeah, absolutely. Who do we trust? What kind? I mean, because you see other things too. You see a convergence of different, sectors of business that has earlier been very much apart. They suddenly converge, and they are very dependent on each other, or actually maybe they incorporate something that they didn't have before. So I guess it's so I think about understanding the system and trying to be more aware of what your business is about is very important for the board.
Anna, you've had a long view on leadership and governance, and I think back to the gender balance, where I'm also very passionate and have my NGO Girls at Tech. If you look at boards, the gender balance has really been slightly off after a lot of years, after many years, even though quite a lot of focus has been on it. Any thoughts around that?
Well, it's a thing that I wonder about as well. But I think that, there's been a lot of discussions and actual studies on how boards perform, and it's a fact that a diverse board is performing better than if there's only one gender. That's really so many evidence of this. So as you say, why isn't that?
Why don't companies do something about it, or boards do something about it?
And then I think it's another mechanisms in times of change. I think it has to do with how you choose and how you nominate in times of uncertainty, and also about trust. So you tend to repeat old patterns when you feel that you have to go a safe road.
We also see, times of, when it's hard times. When it's hard times, both for geopolitical reasons or the company or whatever, they take the safe part instead of, of knowing what works, what would be good for the company.
Right.
It's better to go down the path that we know, and let's, which is a bit sad.
Yeah, it is. It's and of course it's the same. Maybe you could apply to AI. What's the safe road and what's the best road? So that's, I think it's a very human reaction to times of uncertainty.
You've worked across multiple waves of change, and you're still actively shaping organizations today. You power woman. What has allowed you to stay relevant and continue contributing at that level over time?
Well, I think that it's of course curiosity, and a will to be part of what's happening, to influence or to shape, as you say.
You truly are an influencer.
No, but I think I was thinking about your girls in tech, or to encourage women, and I think that it's kind of a paradox that I think I have the confidence, and I think everybody should have, that when you're part of something, you try to contribute the best you can. But at the same time, you know that, of course, there will be somebody else taking over, and they will also shape things in a very good way. I've been fortunate that successors that have come after me, I felt, oh, they're really doing this good. but I think that it's really when you are part of something to contribute and to be curious and try to learn and try to express what you think is right.
Is that the advice you would give leaders who want to do the same and be like you?
Absolutely. Yes, and I think to be confident and humble at the same time. I think it's important. But when you're there to really try to contribute, I think it's important.
Thank you, Anna. I have learned so much from you. I admire you. I said that right at the start. And I have a new role model. Meet her. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. And thank you all of you for listening. If you haven't subscribed already, please do. And leave us some feedback. We'd love to hear from you. Thanks. Bye for now.